Hello, my name is Matthew, and I'm doing this week's edition of MMA News. This week, the main fight card is Invicta Fighting Championships 2. Now, I just want to give a little bit of an explanation. Last week, I did not do a explanation, namely because I was not very thrilled about UFC 149. And I just didn't really see how I could describe the Strikeforce results, so because they speak for themselves. So that was the main reason. I'm sorry I didn't get to it when I said I would, and I'm sorry I got to this as late as I did in the week, but that's what I did. So this is what's happening. Or this last weekend, the first thing we had was Bellator 72. Now, in this one, you had some significant fights. You had Carl Amasu beating Brian Baker, for both of which are very good fighters. It was submission in the first round for the welterweight tournament for this last season. So, of course, this gives Amasu a title shot against Ben Askren. Excuse me, against Ben Askren for his welterweight title. This honestly, I think, is a reason why the summer series is good, because it allows Bellator to get the extra tournaments in, and they can finish up the tournaments. They don't have to wait for however many months to get it done. But anyways, there was that. Paul Daly in his debut match. It was pretty much a tune-up match. Beat Rudy Bears in the first round, 3rd minute TKO. Not surprising there. He actually made weight, which is impressive. So he did that. So he will, I'd say that's probably what's going to set him up for the next tournament. I'd certainly hope so. But, there's a lot of things that happen in MMA that kind of disappoint me to an extent. That I think makes sense, but doesn't happen. But anyways. Then in the light heavyweight tournament, you had Travis Wyeth, the big veteran, defeat Tim Carpenter. No surprise there. Then you had Attila Vague defeat Emmanuel Newton, both of which are kind of newcomers to the stateside fight scene. But anyways, that sets it up. Wyeth finally getting the big break. He's been in this for forever. So he gets his chance to fight for the light heavyweight title. And of course, we all know that he deserves the title shot, considering that in one of the last super fights, he beat the reigning champion and didn't get the title. But that's just how Bellator runs. Then most notable is that you had Marius Rumskis versus Joachim Spearwolf in their trilogy match, which once again was a very close fight. A lot of people have been talking about this, especially in MMA forums, and I agree. This was not really a thriller fight. This was another rather unnecessary fight, but I certainly hope that Zoromskis is finally gonna get into a tournament. Two welterweights, they both won their matches. I hope they're in the next tournament. But like I said, stuff has happened that I don't always stuff happens that I would think makes sense but doesn't. So that's just how it goes. So that is that was Bellator. Now I am going to talk about the major yet disappointing UFC 149. It was definitely a disappointment. I was not very thrilled about it because, he had injury after injury after injury. Honestly, it was not that good. On paper, it didn't look that good, and as we all found out, it wasn't that good. You had these guys who were expected to live up to expectations, and they did exactly the opposite. They didn't live up to expectations. Now I recently went and watched on the this piece done on MMA Uncensored Live, which is the news show for the MMA news show on Spike, and as it turns out, Renan Barao is actually a very good fighter. He actually did deserve the title, even though barely anyone, including myself, knew who he was before this fight card. And here he is now. He just got the title, and he's got a title shot with he's got the title shot. So he's the interim title. So he was riding a 28 fight win streak. That's impressive. So he's fighting Dominic Cruz when Cruz is healthy. So that in and of itself is impressive. So they fought to a unanimous decision, and but the point is, you fight and you expect to see good fights, and that's not what happened. Barao went out there and fought, but the fact of the matter is he wasn't fighting a real high caliber Uriah Faber. And then you have the disappointing debut of Hector Lombard. Lombard would go through and dominate fighters in Bellator, and he didn't do that. He went out and fought a lackluster fight against Tim Bosch, he's not a top middleweight. I'm telling you, Tim Bosch is not a top middleweight. At least it wasn't before, last Saturday night. He's being considered in the title picture now, but he was not a top middleweight before that. He at one point fought in light heavyweight, but blah 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 blah. The point is, Lombard didn't go out there and he didn't deliver. It was, he signed with the UFC and relinquished the title. Now all of a sudden he's like, I'm going to go back to the drawing board, but I'm not going to drop down to welterweight. You have no choice. You're 34 years old, and you just went out and look like an average guy. It's like, I don't know what else to say. And I'm not even really going to bother talk about the rest of the guys. Congo really should have gone there and knocked Jordan out. Ebersol should have fought better. So here's going to be the main point. They as usual, they hand out bonuses. I think the bonuses were rightly rewarded. They were rewarded to mostly undercard guys. Fight of the night was Brian Caraway versus Gagnon, I guess. That was on the preliminary card in FX. And on the undercard, you have Ryan Jimmo knockout Anthony Peroche in the record 7 seconds. He just tied the record for the fastest knockout in the UFC. These undercards guys went out and delivered. Matt Riddle, he went. I saw this guy fight on the Ultimate Fighter, and now here he is still in the UFC, and he just pulled off a submission, and he dedicated it to his wife. These men all deserved their bonuses. They were lesser guys, and they went out and they delivered. The main card guys did not deliver, except for Matt Riddle. They did not deliver. It was disappointing. I'm glad I did not go out and watch the card. I didn't even bother to look it up on an underground site because I wasn't thrilled about it. It was disappointing, to say the least. So, So, yeah, good riddance to that. The Bellator card was better than that. I mean, people would have gotten their money's worth if they'd watched the Bellator, if they'd paid to watch the Bellator card, but they didn't. It was free on MTV. So, okay, so here's the main thing, getting over all of that. We are going into this weekend where the only major card is Invicta Fighting Championships 2. Invicta Fighting Championships is the first stateside all-women's MMA promotion. Brought about when Zuffa took over Strikeforce, and and the women were kind of starting to get worried about their fight careers, and the person most involved in it. The two women most involved in this, Janet Martin and Shannon Knapp, I guess that's how you. Well, anyways, these two women, they'd been involved in the they'd been involved in the fight scene for quite some time, and here they were being approached by these women saying, well, what's going to happen to us? Because the only division that currently Strikeforce has is the bantamweight division, because after Cyborg got tested positive for roids and got suspended, they suspended their featherweight division. So all they have was the bantamweights. So the problem was that they were wondering what's going to happen. It's job security. And here it is. These women put together Invicta Fighting Championships. Now, I actually like this because it's going to actually develop a talent pool for women's MMA. And now, granted, they have a whole bunch of weight classes that I don't I don't hear often. Let's see, atomweight, atomweight, strawweight. I'd expect stuff like flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, flyweight. But some of these weight classes just like, yeah. I guess another thing is that Bellator hasn't had a women's championship since the first tournament, and they haven't really had anything go on since then. But anyways, the main event is Shayna Baszler versus Sarah McMahon. Shayna, she's been in the fight scene for quite some time. 31 years old. She's gone against the likes of Sarah Kaufman, Alexis Davis. She actually fought Cyborg when they were back in Elite XC. People along those lines. So she's a veteran, and she's been out there. She's been fighting people. Yeah. So that's her, and then you have up and comer Sarah McMahon, who I watched her on TV win her silver medal, and here she is on the fight scene quite a few years later. She's really evolved, and she is definitely something to be reckoned with. Now I'm just gonna browse over. They got people. Invicta Fighting Championship has a cooperation with Heat, which is or is it Jules? I think it's Jules. Yeah, it's Jules. The all Japanese equivalent, and they're exchanging fighters. So they got some good matchups coming up. Hitomi Akano, Alexis Davis, Liz Camacho, who was with Strikeforce, but I don't know why they let her go, but they did. At least I think they did. Caitlin Young, Ayaka Hamasaki, Jasmine Saive. So they've got some good fights there. It's free on the Invicta Fighting Championships website, which their first fight card was, but I didn't know that. As a result, I missed the fight card. But anyways,